So I wanted to talk about spiritual consequences for sex. I was going to say sex before marriage, but I honestly believe that whoever you're having sex with, you're married to. And you're exchanging energy with that person. And you're married to them in whatever plane, the astral plane. I don't know how you want to describe it, but when you're having sex with more than one person, you see what happens. Usually, it ends violently somehow. And this is my experience. So this is how I tested spiritual law. Is I was dating this girl. She was a Ukrainian ballroom dancer, professional. Like she was. I think she said she was top 3 in the world. And I started learning about spirituality. She said she was a spiritual person, but she's also very, like, I don't know, didn't seem like the same type of spiritual as me. So I started reading about bramacharya and semen retention and the power that comes from when you withhold your seed. I don't have a better way to say that. And I wanted to try it. And they say even when you're in a relationship to do it, you practice tantra, where you're only supposed to have an orgasm to create a child. And supposedly if a child is made when you didn't actually orgasm, that this child has a special mission on Earth or something to this nature. So I'm like reading stuff about this. I'm like, okay, this makes sense to me. And then I wanted to try it. Like, what does reading do? You know, I want to, like, when they say fasting helps this or that, it's like, okay, I'll try it. And then I'll report back. So what I did, I started losing interest in having sex with my girlfriend. And she was like pushing it, like, when was the last time? And I just didn't want to. And it was partly because I felt like she wasn't meant for me. And initially when I met her, she was like perfect. I thought, like, perfect for me. She was like what the other girls were missing, this girl had. And she said that, like, obviously, like, if you take care of a girl, she can be in her feminine energy. So she was always complimenting me that she felt she could be, you know, she's not fighting the world as much because I'm providing stuff. So as I'm like mulling this over and I'm thinking, like, am I breaking spiritual law by having sex with this woman? Am I meant to do? I really felt like I had a calling of some sort that was outside of this relationship. It's kind of like the alchemist. Like, could I settle here? Yes. And when I look around me, everybody else was like, why aren't you settling? Because they would have. And I thought that I should at least try this thing before I decide to settle. So we broke up, I think, 6 months ago, which means 6 months ago was the last time I had an orgasm. I wasn't counting the days. I don't know exactly, but it's at least 6 months now. So what I noticed, and feel free to try it or not, when I told my friends, like guy friends, that I'm doing this, like, oh, I went 2 weeks once. It's like, that's pretty, like, a sad state of affairs that we have to stare into a screen and masturbate. Just like as a species, that's where we're at, you know? Just numbing ourselves. It never made sense to me, honestly. I always felt like I was doing something weird or wrong. So I guess that's why I looked into it. So, and yeah, I had gone long periods of time without doing it. It was basically like until my balls hurt. Sorry for the TMI. It was basically until there was a like need, like I'm doubled over in pain, I wouldn't do it. But obviously in a relationship, like, and like I date women out of my league, so they're attractive and they are seductive, and of course, like, it's hard to say no. So what I noticed after we broke up, and I had never had to break up with someone who, like, we didn't have any problems, so that was new to me. But we separate. She was mad at me, and I was like, again, you can be mad. Like, I didn't do anything wrong to you. And if anything, I'm doing you a favor. Like, if I wasn't going to give 100%, what kind of life is that for you? Because I'm capable of much more, when I'm in love. So, let her go, and then went on this journey of semen retention, not spilling the cup of Hermes, as they say. And what I noticed is mental clarity. What I noticed is my testosterone increased. I've tried tons of different supplements. I know when my testosterone is high, so I didn't test it. I don't know how high. But I noticed when my skin was oily, when I was retaining more muscle and I looked leaner, like something's happening. Plus, I'm 38. Morning boners left a long time ago. And then all of a sudden it returned, and it was like a problem. All of a sudden I had these like vicious boners all night. And I was afraid. I was like, okay, so this is why you, what do they call it, nocturnal emissions? That's why that happens. But I separated myself from social media, and then I stopped looking at like meme pages, and I stopped looking at Reddit and stuff like this. Because even if I wasn't looking for it, you'd see like a girl that's the most beautiful girl. Like, they dress like superheroes these days. And you're like, what the F is that? And when I went a long time without seeing like a woman in a provocative pose or something, naked, everything kind of went dormant. So like the compulsions, just like I don't miss it, if that makes sense. And I notice sometimes, like, I'll run into something here and there. Like someone in a group chat will send something or whatever, and then I can pay attention to what's happening here. And then I'll notice, once it's in here, it'll take a long time for it to come back, but it'll come back. Once that thought arises, and your body is programmed, to procreate. So like, while you're able to, as soon as you see monkey see, monkey do, right? But I am not a monkey. So I hate that people are texting me right now and calling me and stuff. I hope to disappear from the world at some point. That would be a dream. Anyways, so I also noticed that I became more attractive to other women when I was retaining my semen. All of a sudden, it's like I was glowing. And that's basically like confirming what I had read, that this is needed for spiritual growth, and that I was committing some kind of spiritual crime by having sex with someone that I didn't intend to marry. And because, again, whoever you're having sex with, you're married to spiritually. It doesn't matter if your parents know, it doesn't matter if your school knows, your friends know. If you're having sex, that's your partner, and you should treat it as such. Like, you should take it seriously. I always found it strange when people go on bachelor or bachelorette parties, and then they have like strippers and stuff, or strip clubs. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you getting married if this is what you like? Just keep doing this. Unless both like it, in which case, be my guest. I'm not judging. Doesn't make sense to me. Last night of freedom. Your last night of freedom was a long time ago when you decided to start having sex. So, then, as I became more attractive to the opposite sex, I noticed like men and women staring at me a lot more. So some type of magnetism, right? This girl at the gym started taking an interest in me, and she had always, been going to the gym for 7 years or 8 years, something like that. I've seen her around. What's up, butterfly? I knew who she was, and my friend at the gym was like, "Oh, this is my gym crush." And I was like, "Oh, I've seen her around. I don't understand what everybody sees in her." And it's not that she's not pretty, like she's a model. I guess that's the objective. Is this pretty or not? And I'm not speaking negatively about her. I'm just saying, for me, someone that needs so much external validation is probably not the suitable partner for me, because I have not this need. So she was pursuing me while she had a boyfriend. Also, like, that's an immediate, we're done here. So she had a boyfriend that she lived with and she was on and on with, and I would see that they were on and off at the gym, and I'd hear through other people like what was happening. Not that I sought it out. Actually, I hate hearing gossip. I think that's another spiritual sin, to be honest. I noticed the effects when I was listening to gossip and I was participating in it. It is bad. Low vibration. So this girl's like pleading her case, and I felt guilty for judging her. And she really leaned into that. So she's like, "I'm a really spiritual person and you judged me and you think I'm suspicious and all this stuff." Like, well, if you're a spiritual person, why do you live with a person that you hate? And why are you looking to get your needs met while you're in, like, it's just, doesn't look like it to me. So, of course, she's hearing that I'm a spiritual person and I don't want to have sex till marriage and stuff. She starts leaning into that. So she says that she had the conversation with her boyfriend and now they're broken up. So now it's okay to hang out. And I was still on the fence, and I basically was like, okay, my intuition says absolutely not here. But I always have a tendency to second guess that intuition, because I could see the energy imbalance. I could see that there would be one. So not to condemn someone and say this is an energy vampire, but I could see that I would give 100%, and whatever I'm giving is probably not enough for this person. And that's just like, when they need external validation, that's just the case. Like, so she deleted her Instagram. She like signed up for Farsi class. She was really selling me on this, right? Like, she's gonna really put in the effort to be the perfect mate for me. So it's like, okay, let's give it a shot then. And the entire time I'm watching. Like, I see where her eyes go when she doesn't think I'm looking, I'm like, I see. And then obviously, like, we're going to the same gym, so she would tell me about the guys that are hitting on her. I could tell it's an attempt to make me jealous. I'm not the jealous type. It's like, if you want attention, go for it. Like, if that's what you want, go ahead. I won't be here. And I've also like hung out with and dated beautiful women before you. It's like, I know you're giving off a vibration that is, come talk to me. And then she acts innocent. It's like, I've seen this before. I'm not stupid. Because I'm on purpose giving the opposite vibration. Don't talk to me. So, and then also I noticed, like, when we were together, I'm just forced into conversations with people that I wouldn't have conversations with. And like, she introduced me to very nice people, but they're not, these people are 10 years younger than me and they're at a different place in their lives. And I didn't feel, like I'm talking to anyone on my level. I remember, it doesn't matter the specifics actually, just it was not my vibe. And she's claiming to be my vibe, yet every single friend is a low vibration person. So that, as I'm saying this, like, I see a girl going into the pool and I could not stop looking. Such a hypocrite. Okay, so just look up, just look down, I'll look at myself. Okay, so she understood about the no sex thing. Like, I was pretty clear. But I was also like, I'm new to my journey. and I don't know what the spiritual laws are, and I'm testing, adjusting my hypothesis constantly. So we didn't have sex, but there was a lot of sexual things happening, right? And what I know, we were hanging out for like a couple of months, and during that time, the extra energy that I got from this bramacharya thing was gone. The improved sleep was gone. Like, I didn't sleep through the night at all. And I was like, what's going on with me? Obviously, there's something wrong. My subconscious is trying to tell me something's wrong, right? And work slows down. So I know when work slows down, that's another, money's not the only clue, but it's a big one, because things are slowing down so that I have time to think about what I'm doing wrong. That's how I see it. So I gave it every chance I could, honestly, and more than enough. So something happened. She wanted to introduce me to her friends. So she's like, I'm going to this steakhouse with one of my gay friends I used to work with, and then I'm going to go out with some friends, and someone else you know from the gym is going to be there, so like we can all hang out. Honestly, not my thing. We're like, okay, for you, fine. So I had dinner with like a friend of mine who's a Jungian therapist. So it's like I really enjoy our conversations, but I cut it short so I could go meet up with this girl. I get to the steakhouse and I cannot find her. I'm like walking through, and this group of older women see me and are like, oh, can you take a picture of us? And like, interacting with strangers every time, it takes something out of me. I was like, okay. And then they were like, wanted to have small talk with me. I was like, I'm just trying to, like, please, what's your name? It's like, it doesn't matter, please leave. And then I see her, and she's sitting at a like a 4-person table, and it's just the two of them sitting across from each other, so that I didn't see the friends. I had walked through the building a couple of times. So I come, and the first thing she says, she's like, good thing we weren't talking shit on you. It's like, that's a weird way to say hello. Doesn't stand up to greet me, just sits there looking at her friend, like for permission, I guess, on what the next move is, which is also strange. Like, if I'm the person in your life, who's this guy? Why do we need his permission for anything? And call me old-fashioned, but like, you need a proper introduction where you stand up and say hello and shake hands or whatever. The guy didn't look up. Like, I put my hand out and shook his hand, and then he looked right back at her. Like, he didn't say, how are you doing? Nice to meet you, nothing. And then she says, oh, go, everybody else is in the other room. Go over there, and like, ordering me to go. And I didn't come to hang out with anybody. I came to hang out with the girl I'm dating, right? So I'm like, can you tell me where exactly? Because I just walked through here twice. I look like an asshole. And she's like, just right there around the corner. I'm like, okay, that's where I went. And I look again, and I look around, and I'm like, why am I here? Like, they just got their food, so she's like, oh, it's like too early. Like, maybe you should have texted me and told me that the right time then. So I just left. And she's like, you were my ride, you abandoned me, all this stuff. It was like, didn't seem like you wanted me there, so I didn't think it mattered. And like, if roles were reversed, there's no way I would have handled things the same way. I would have stood up and said hello and hugged you and introduced you to my friend and then said, come join us. What is this? Like, we need our alone time. So she, of course, turns it around on me, and then me being who I am, I feel guilty. Oh, I'm sorry for tricking your, oh, you were abandoned before? Sorry. It's like, maybe you cause it. Maybe you deserve it somehow. And I noticed another time she took me to a friend of hers house, and she like explicitly ignored me. And I'm like in a house full of strangers, but I could tell this is what's happening. Like, she's in the kitchen talking to her guy friends that she said she doesn't have anymore. And then a girl starts talking to me, and she starts getting jealous and comes over to me, and I'm like, you know, I'm just letting things play out. And the entire time, so like when she'd come over or whatever, she's sleeping in bed with another man that she said she broke up with. It's one bedroom that she had. But she's like, oh, he's like in another world. He's asleep. He doesn't care what I'm doing. He doesn't know, like, he doesn't know who you are. We're broken up, blah, blah, blah. And I'm still like, this is disgusting. This is like, I've been in a love triangle before. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm moving. I just need to find the right place, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, bother me then. So, of course, I keep getting my needs don't matter. I keep relenting. And she gets more emboldened in her siphoning of my energy, right? So I noticed when she'd come over and we'd hang out or whatever, like after sexual things happen, like I was committed to not having sex, but I didn't know that sexual things is creating the energy. Just because you don't stick it in doesn't mean you're not having sex. Bill Clinton. So the energy is the same. So you're energetically getting entangled with this person. And I'm getting energetically entangled with someone who has completely different morals than me. So obviously in my mind, alarm bells were ringing the whole time. But I was like, let's see. So I'll never have to revisit this again, because I'm doing my research. So basically it ends. Like I see her for who she really is. Like the jig is up. And I just let her play this like elaborate acting play in front of me until I feel like I learned as much as I can learn. This seems like it's getting dangerous. And I also feel really bad for the guy that she just, like, I think she was looking for some way to make him hurt. And seeing or hearing that, okay, here's another thing. She made a big show about breaking up with her guy friends for me. And then her ex-boyfriend had a guy friend that goes to the gym and hits on her all the time. Like as soon as they break up, he's like, yeah, maybe we need a Disney date, stuff like this. That is the dude's best friend. So the guy's best friend is like listening to him gripe about his relationship, and then turns around and says, hey, we should hook up, with the guy's ex-girlfriend or girlfriend at the time. And that dude's my neighbor. I see him walking around my neighborhood. So I was asking her, like, you said you're not talking to that guy anymore because he always hits on you, but then, like, you say, she said that she told that guy who I am. So now someone at the gym knows that she's dating me. I'm like, how is the word not going to get back to your ex-boyfriend? Like, I just don't want to cause this guy pain. Not that my life revolves around him, but I want to treat people how I want to be treated, and there should be a clean break before you start something else. Just to be a good person, I think. So this other guy that she said I'm not friends with yet, I was like, what's stopping him from telling your ex? She's like, oh, his loyalties to me. I was like, you said let's not be friends anymore, and his loyalties to you? And she's like, yeah, well, because I could tell on him that he hits on me all the time, so why would he blah blah blah. Like, you're putting a lot of faith in this man who apparently has no morals whatsoever. So, you know, I start extrapolating. I start hearing the conversations that happen when I'm not around. You know, like I can put two and two together. So, I asked, like, at what point. Somehow it came up. She's like, yeah, if we were getting married, I would, like, and this would be the best man, I would tell him, hey, just so you know, this is what's happening. So I was like, you have to go that far to start telling the truth? We're obviously done here. And it's like, you know, I broke it off, and then she never left me alone. When I broke up with her 4 times maybe. And then she'd like weasel her way back in. Like try to like banter with me and show how intellectual she is or how spiritual she is or whatever, try and trick my dumb ass. And I remember she texted me like, "Hey bestie," and I like just sent a text. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take some time off and be alone and work on my business and things that I've been neglecting because I could tell things are wrong. Nothing personal." And I never heard from her again. And I blocked her just to be sure. So I learned a lot that the sexual energy is like whether they see you naked or they're touching your genitals or not, like even heavy kissing, you are getting entangled energetically. So be careful. And I used to like want to drink and turn the part of my brain off that says stranger danger. And then God knows what I've been doing when my memory was turned off. Bad things, I'm sure. Okay, so after that, or concurrently, I started talking to this Persian girl. I had talked to her like a couple years prior during COVID. And I remember we had fun banter, and it was the last time I felt like someone was real. They weren't like a fake or just trying to use me. Like, she wasn't interested in me, so I was like, let's see if that door's open. And I got to see what it would be like to have someone that shares the same culture. And there were some things that I liked. I liked her banter. She was intelligent. She was successful. She was cute. And she was my type physically, which is like, I have a specific thing and I won't tell you what it is, but some things that I like and some things I don't. And although physical attraction is not everything, it is still important to me. Like, if this is a lifelong commitment, definitely we have to connect on something deeper than physical, but physical is also, it is there. Okay, so I'm dating this girl, and I'm like, you are me from 10 years ago. Like, the way she banters and kind of, it's like this talk shit on people or self-deprecating, and it's funny, but I realized I was becoming a worse person. I was regressing because I would say things to make her laugh. Like, I would joke about her trauma with her to like poke fun at it, and I was like, this is, what am I doing? And I remember like we broke up, or I broke it off, and then she would still message me here and there and say things that would make me miss her or whatever. And I was like, honestly, love you a lot. Like, I wish, but the healing journey, like, she hasn't even begun to realize how she's creating misery. And it's like, I know that there's nothing I can do. She's just going to take her problems out on me. I'm just going to be the next punching bag for her. That's just how the nature of trauma. Unless you fix it, you're doomed to repeat it. Look at what happened to Israel because of the Nazis. Trauma repeats. So you have to get out of the karmic, whatever, samsara, dharma. Get into dharma. So, and then I apologized for like once I was separate from her and long enough, I like realized, I put it into perspective as to why I was hesitant. I remember we were going to a comedy show, and she was expressing like, she had recently discovered her trauma, so she was expressing something and saying like she wants to die, and I immediately corrected her. I was like, words cast spells, that's why it's called spelling. Don't joke about it, don't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not your father, but don't talk like that. I'm not going to allow it. She snapped at me. She said, you're not qualified to psychoanalyze me. You don't know me. You'll never know me. Then we had plans that night, and it was so awkward. Like, I brought her around my friends, and I was like, this same thing. It's like someone is close to me, but miles away. It's like, why did you come? And then we had... Yeah, I hate that feeling. It's like, ugh, just stay home. I'll eat. I don't care how much I spent. Just stay home. I don't want to be around you when you're in a bad mood. I don't know why that's allowed. Um, like if we're just gonna be friends, let's just be friends. She was talking to guys the whole time. Like every time we were hanging out, she was getting messages on dating apps, and then also telling me she's never felt like this before. And then when I asked, like, at what point were you going to delete the stuff? She's like, I didn't have the conversation to be exclusive. It's like, well, if you haven't felt like this before, I would assume you'd take initiative. Show me that, because I wasn't talking to anybody else. Like when someone gets my attention, it's my full attention. But I could tell she's just numbing herself, as we all do. And if you're lonely when you're alone, you're in bad company. It means you have work to do. So I told her, like, I apologized for joking about her trauma. I was like, like, I'm trying to make you feel better, and I'm sorry about that. And she said, you disgust me. And then I blocked her. It's like, that's enough. Like, we're obviously talking in different languages, and no matter, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Like, no matter what my intentions are, she's going to take it bad, and it's not my fault or my problem. So I need to, like, cut my losses. And I obviously, like, I have inside me, I have it to heal everybody. Inside me, I want to fix everybody. Inside me, I want to share what I've learned and how I've gotten past the things that I identified with. But people have to be ready for that. And it is a personal journey. Like, maybe I can tell you something that helps, but like a good therapist doesn't give you the answers. They help you discover it on your own. And really, you just have to cure yourself, not pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. But as Jung says, like, you don't imagine figures of light, you make the darkness conscious. And it's your own darkness you have to come to terms with to get over something. And I don't see many people doing that. It's hard work, honestly. I don't think it gets harder. But that's what you're here for. This book I'm reading, Theosophy, is talking about, like, the spirit, the soul, the corporal body, and then talking about how they're related and how your desires are affected by each. And there are people who, once they lose their body, they go on their spiritual journey or soul journey. And there are people who do it while they're here. And I am doing it while I'm here. I don't care if anyone's following me. I don't care if I have a single person to talk to about this. It's the only important thing in this world. It's the only thing that I know that's real. Because as I fix myself, I seem to have an effect on the world around me. And the world is absolute chaos right now. Absolute. But it always has been. Like, I heard Voltaire talk about it. And it sounds like he was living now. Like, the world always looks like it's about to end. It looks like this is Armageddon. But it's by design, because this is a school. You're supposed to learn something. So there are trauma that happens to us. Now listen to this. Talk about spiritual lessons and talk about overcoming things. First of all, I know so many women who have been raped. It is such a sad reality. It's that we're here as a society. It's so disgusting. Like, I see the value in Islam covering their women, because how do you protect them otherwise? Men are disgusting. Like, there are kids with their parents and men staring at the mom, And I notice when I'm, like, with a beautiful girl, everybody's looking. I see their eyes, And where they go. And like, you're supposed to take it as a compliment. It's not that I take it offensively, but it is like, this is a dangerous world to be a woman. Like, as soon as you come out, someone's trying to penetrate you. Not long after, it turns out. All the celebrities we know are going to the island and fucking kids and then eating them, apparently. That's an actual news story. Like, is this hell? Tell me it's not hell. What the fuck is happening? Why are you telling me this also? The strangest thing is that, like, the people that control the news are Jeffrey Epstein's friends, and they're the ones telling me what he's doing. I would have no idea. I live nowhere near him. And I'm not a young girl. He's not interested in me. Why are you telling me? So anyways, rape. That fun subject. So I met this kid. He was at a shop that I work with. And he was stranded there for a couple days because he lives in NorCal, but he was going to school in San Diego. I'm in Orange County, so he's at this shop for a couple of days, and I kept running into him. We're talking about his car. I had apparently worked on his car before he bought it. And then he's in college, maybe he's 20. And as I was leaving the second day, I think it was Friday, I said I don't know how it came up. I said something about getting shot, and he said he was shot twice. And I was like, oh, what'd you do to deserve it? Joking, obviously. It's like when someone's raped and you say, what were you wearing? Which, like, I don't know if I'm supposed to change that part of me to be a spiritual person. I don't, like, does my intention matter there, or is it words? Words cast spells, that's why it's called spelling. You gotta be careful. Okay, so this kid tells me that he was held hostage, like, in a standoff with the police. Now get this story. He's at home talking to one of his friends. He hears his dad come home. His dad says, hello, hey guy, and then he doesn't finish guys. And he hears a few popping noises. And then his friend on the phone is like, what was that? He's like, I don't know. Then his mom is like backed into a corner in the kitchen, pleads for her life, says, please, I have 4 children, like we can talk about this. Can we talk? Boom, 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 in the face. The brother was standing opposite kitty corner, watched his mom get backed into a corner and get executed. So the brother takes off. So now he's the only one home. Then the guy marches to this kid's room, says, call your sister. Apparently he had raped his sister. They had a restraining order against him, and then in Boston, and they didn't transfer it to California. And this guy had apparently stalked the family. He knew their work schedule, school schedule. He knew when this kid was in basketball practice, when he got off, all this stuff. The guy was stalking the family so he could do this. Calls the sister from the brother's phone 72 times. 73, she picks up. I killed your family, bitch. Like, your parents are asleep, or something to that nature. And she's like, what? And she thought it was her brother. And then she said, the guy's like, it's me, so-and-so. And then I put your parents to sleep permanently. And she drops the phone. I guess he could hear it. And the kid's like in shock. As he's being like held hostage at gunpoint. And then obviously the police come, and then like when the police surround the building, SWAT, whatever, there's snipers on every roof somewhere. He puts the kid up to the window, so when they open the window, they would shoot the kid. Like, they would just get scared that it's the shooter and shoot the kid. And I don't know how long it lasted. It was a few hours, I think. And eventually, the guy shoots the kid in the stomach twice, and then says, I'm giving you a fighting chance. Let's see if you live. And like, make it to the NBA for me, or some weird shit like this. This kid had to crawl over his dead dad's body through his blood. Literally, this kid got baptized in his father's blood. Crawled to safety. And then, like, how dare we complain about anything? Oh my God. Like, this kid. And he was like such a spine. He's like happier than me. How are you doing so well? Like, obviously, good therapist. He went through a lot, and then a lot of therapists, and then found the one that he's like friends with and figured things out. And he needs EMDR, which I'm both for and against, because I do believe that pain is supposed to happen. And it's overcoming pain and putting things into perspective and harnessing it that makes great men, honestly. Like, every man needs that. You see, like, Marcus Aurelius invented Stoicism, was emperor of the largest empire known to man, the last great Roman emperor. And his son Commodus is the one from The Gladiator. ruined everything. He was a narcissist because he couldn't accomplish anything. So he had like the Colosseum fights, and he gave the guys that he was fighting, he gave them dull swords so he'd look like a badass. And because he didn't have this thing to overcome. We all have something to overcome. And it's what creates great men, honestly. Men who don't overcome, I have lots of stories about it, but they'll always feel insecure. And they always externalize their validation, and they just destroy the world, honestly. Destroy women, destroy families, destroy businesses. Absolute pricks. So this kid, God bless him, like happy, and he's telling the story. Not a tear didn't well up in his eyes, and it was happened when he was 13. He's 20. It's just 7 years. And then I'm thinking, like, I know all these women that, like, I know women who have been raped, and then just say it casually, like, yeah, I was raped, and like, fuck that guy. And then some that it's like they threw their lives away because they feel like they don't have value now. And of course it shouldn't happen. Of course, like, tragedy should not happen to anybody. People say this is why there's no God, right? But there's two parts to it. One is you have no idea what someone's karma is. Like sometimes, like, we don't see, like, Hitler didn't get his karma. Like, what happened to him when he was reincarnated then? Like, maybe he, in whatever form, he has to fix things karmically. Like, you get infinite chances. If there's a true God, there is no permanent hell. Because it would be this. It would just always be strife. It doesn't solve anything. But you can choose hell for yourself, I do believe. And then you'll just be circling this ring until you figure it out. Until your soul learns the lesson and gets out. Stop fucking up. Okay, so that's one thing. Not saying that that was the case for this kid. The other thing is, in order to motivate greatness, you have to have great adversity. Period. Period. So this kid messaged me after I had met him, and he said it was such an honor meeting me, and he looks up to me and stuff like this. I don't know what I said. I responded, I was like, I don't know what I did to deserve that. I'm appreciative. But then I started sharing the things that I've learned, spiritually speaking. And I said that, death isn't the end. I 100% know that. And I know that, like, now he has his parents' support from the other side. And then I also asked if the guy who, you're supposed to forgive, otherwise they win, right? The devil wins if he changed you. I asked, did you look in his eyes while he was doing all this stuff? And he's like, yeah. I was like, was it all black? Like a shark? He said, yeah. So, yeah, I know the devil when I see him. I know when he's in someone, I see it a lot. That's what your spiritual vision's for. Like, I see it. I see it in Kenneth Copeland's eyes, honestly. I don't care if he sues me. Fuck you, dude. You're the one doing shitty things in the world. Sue me. I dare you. Okay, so this kid, like, I sent him this long text explaining a lot of things that I think would help. And he responded again saying, like, he's in tears and he's going to save this message. And he said that when I gave him a ride in my car, that it made him feel like a kid again with his dad. And first of all, what a nice kid. Like, totally would adopt him if I had heard about this. And then the thing is, when he lost his parents, like, his father was very wealthy, so his family was very wealthy, and how disgusting the family acted afterwards. And instead of just taking them in and protecting them, they were looking for payouts, and they were looking for special treatment, and they were looking for how they were grieved, how somehow they got the short end of the stick or something. And it's really disgusting human behavior. to the point where I often don't think I'm human. It's like, is this what you all agree on? I don't see it. Okay, so hypothetically, if this kid always hated the assailant, because we fight not against flesh and blood, it's a spiritual battle, right? So if the devil was allowed to do this, to move in this kid's life like this, that means that he's meant for something great. And that's what I told him. It's like, your parents are helping you from the other side. If you need help here, I'll help. But like, don't let us down. It's like, you're supposed to do something amazing. So like, he's in San Diego. I know the party scene there, and I know how dangerous that scene is. So I was like, don't get involved in that stuff. Don't try drugs. Keep your nose clean. And I'm counting on you. And now, like, you know, obviously it's possible to get over things. I don't know many people who have gone through anything worse than that and who have come out on top. But I hate people comparing trauma, because the worst thing that's happened to you is the worst thing that's happened to you. If spilling your ice cream was the worst thing that happened to you as a child, you still create, like, your body releases chemicals. You created a trauma response to whatever that is. And it shapes who you are. And your responsibility, it's not your fault what happens to you when you're a kid, but every day you are the result of your trauma. As an adult, it's your fault. You're deciding to stay there. You're deciding to be helpless, and it's not the case. You can get help. You can fix things. You can examine yourself, examine your life, examine the life of other people, and learn. Too many people, like, spiritual bypass. They'll look at, I go to the right church and I'm right with God, and they never revisit. They never ask themselves, like, is this the right religion? Am I doing the right thing? And I can see from the outside, I'm like, you're fucking up. Like, I knew this family that they left their front door open all the time, unlocked, not like wide open. And then, of course, someone eventually comes in and steals everything. They had like 30 years of, and this is a very like devout Christian family. Jesus is our guard dog, you know? And then, you know, they had amassed a bunch of jewelry over decades. And they identified with it. And instead of, in my case, I'm looking at it like, okay, God was saying what's important is you have each other and not this stuff, right? And maybe we don't need that stuff. Instead, they like dug their heels in and they just wanted more stuff. They just really worked hard to get back and keep up with the Joneses. And I hope this phone call doesn't end my streak, because this was good. Please fuck off. Okay, so they started amassing wealth again, or stuff, like putting themselves in debt to look like, we need to have a Porsche, we need to live here, we need to have, you know what I mean? We need to have jewelry, I have to have a Rolex, like, and this, the father, the pastor, was the guy who told me if I don't give him 10% of my money, I'll burn in hell forever. I'm like, I can see where the money's going. Like, you paid for your half of lunch on the church credit card. Like, I can see what happens to my money when it goes to your church. It's not helping anybody. It's not helping you either. So writing that man a check for 10 grand hurt a lot. But it was my turning the other cheek, and it forced me to forgive forever. Like, I can't renege on it. I'm telling this story not to judge the man, just to put things in perspective. Please don't. So, you know, things seem to be what's valuable to those people. And those people triggered my spiritual awakening. Because people like that are the reason I didn't look for God. I'm like, obviously you don't have the answers. It's not in your book, you haven't figured it out. And I never revisited it. The father also, like, we went to dinner one night with like a couple of my friends, my girlfriend, her father, and her mother. We went to a fancy steakhouse. And she tells me at the beginning of dinner, like, hey, just so you know, my parents are going through financial difficulties because of COVID. My dad can't travel. In my head, That's how dumb I am. I'm like, of course, this is my family. Of course I would pay. Like, I've known these people for 15 years. They've been great to me. This is my family. What's mine is yours. So I secretly give my credit card to the waitress. Very slyly. Nobody saw it. Of course, she told me that so that I would pay. She knows who I am and used that to her advantage many times. And the manager comes over. And the father is sitting as close as you are to me. And the manager was wearing a mask, but he goes like this, and I could only hear what the dad responded with. And he's like, "Oh, this kid right here, this kid's fucking loaded. Let him pay. That's fine. Yeah, let him pay." It's like pointing at me when I'm sitting in front of him. And I was like, "There's no way I just heard that. Like, my father is the type of person who will stab you if you try to pay." You know, I don't know if it's a Persian thing. Like, they'll get into a fight in a restaurant if you try to pay. And then this is the opposite. And I'm like, obviously, like, I'm courting his daughter. And I'm like, this is going to be my father. So I was like, there's no way I heard that right. And a friend of my friend that was with us was trying to talk to me. I'm like, please shut the fuck up. I'm trying to hear. So I don't know what he's talking about. And I hear, and then the waitress comes over and she's like, "I'm so sorry, he gave me his credit card." I'm right here. "I'm sorry, he gave me his credit card first." Like, "Oh, this kid's fucking rich, let him pay. Kids, don't worry about it." Not like that. And then, of course, like, when the bill comes, he's like, "Oh, thank you, you didn't, what a surprise, you didn't have to do it." And I'm like, okay. So, not shocked, I suppose. But it triggered something in me, like it triggered some kind of abandonment thing. And I told my girl, maybe she was with someone else at the time, which was also messed up, but I told my friend, I thought, "This is what your dad said. I heard him say it twice or whatever." And then she said, "Oh no, like, he meant it like, you got this. Like, this is your time to shine. Like, I won't step on your toes." It's like, well, that's not what he said. And then he also lied by pretending that he was surprised that I paid. So this is your hero. This is going to be the grandfather to my children. This guy speaks to God for both of us. So I had like this fire burn in me, and I hated this man so much after that. And I realized, you know, he had found out that I made more money than him. And then I realized he said that to me on purpose. He knew I could hear him. This was like his insecurity. And of course, if I didn't have some type of issue that would have just rolled off my shoulders, I would have just been like, yeah, this guy's insecure. Like, I do make more money than you, fuck you. And it's for a reason. But I identified with it because I needed to learn something. And this man was the living embodiment of my shadow. We had a lot of the same base materials. I could see what created him. He talked about his trauma a lot. Father was abusive, cheated on the mom died early, so of course he's looking for that love from the outside world, right? And then if it appears like someone else has it, he's going to be resentful. So instead of empathizing and taking pity like I would if I was complete, it sent me on a spiritual journey. It sent me to find myself and find peace and find God, honestly. Like, he wanted to be the person that leads me to God or stands in between me and God, frankly. And I would not have found my version of God, whatever it is, as I'm still defining it. It doesn't fit in with anything that I've heard. I see bits and pieces of it in every religion. I see the same truths that I believe and that I test with spiritual law. I realized I started with don't have sex with before marriage, and now I ended on something very different. But this is how my brain works. It's like a Tarantino film in here. So I'm forever thankful for these people. Like, I was so angry for so long, but forever thankful. And this is when you start to realize, like the Hermetics say, like, You're creating reality. Like if it wasn't them, it would have been someone else. Like someone else would have played that role in my life. So like there are so many people like them. And I feel so profoundly sorry for them that they'll never find value in anything. Like truly, they'll never actually find peace because they think they already found it. Spiritual bypassing, as I said. It's like, we already know God. We talk to God for people. You can't teach someone something they already know. And a stubborn man makes idols of his opinions. So like as I started learning about history and the things that don't add up and like who wrote the Bible actually, if you actually read and believe the Bible word for word, the man who commissioned, Emperor Constantine, commissioned the Bible to be made, Council of Nicaea. That man boiled his mother alive and murdered his wife. And those could be switched. I'm not sure which, but that's in Hebrew. Ha-Satan means the adversary. So the Christianity movement, the Yeshua movement was gaining traction, and the powers that be hijacked it and changed the story, and obviously inserted paganism in everything. Like, who the fuck is Santa Claus? Who the fuck is the Easter Bunny? What are you guys? Why are you hunting for Easter eggs? What do rabbits have to do with eggs? Easter comes from the word Ishtar, goddess of fertility. And if you look in history, it's like that's what, and the Church of Dionysus, the cult of Dionysus is where they got the eat my body, drink my blood thing. What the fuck? You think it's not a cult? What the fuck are you doing? How does that get you closer to God? And also, you never met the man. You think someone is a prophet or the son of God that you've never met. And God has been conveniently silent and allowed a lot of atrocity since then. Obviously, you haven't figured it out yet. So keep looking, dumbass. You didn't finish in that book. Ask yourself, who the fuck is King James Version? It's the guy, you're telling me the guys that created the Scottish Rite Freemasonry that have code in the Bible, like they read the Bible a different way and find secrets in it because they wrote it, and you're thinking that gets you to God. It gets them to some version, lowercase g God, I'm pretty sure. Maybe that's what the G in Freemasonry, whatever the fuck that is. But it ain't not the God that created everything. That I'll tell you. Something's missing. Someone who wants to be God that is not. FYI. So I suppose everything will somehow, I'm gonna like have so many, the Venn diagram of the things that I've learned and connections that I make is ridiculous, but I'm almost at an hour, so I'm gonna try and keep, I could talk forever, but I'll keep this one where we're at. I'm not sure what I'll call it, but I talked, to help me find and figure it out, I talked about sex as a spiritual law. I talked about people's spiritual bypassing, and I talked about overcoming trauma. So I think slowly I'll like figure out a structure to this stuff, and hopefully people learn, like I can open people's eyes, their spiritual eye, you know. That's the purpose of this, I guess. Figure out how I can do it. Okay, thank you. I'll see you. Bye.